Okay, so now you've heard us talk about the portfolio as a magazine. So the reason we call it a magazine is because we don't want to read the same papers you've already turned into us without a little extra something involved. So we have you put them into a magazine, meaning that it is highly stylized formatting, uses visual media, pull quotes, graphics, etc. And it has even a little magazine cover and a letter from the editor, or an editor's note. You're the editor. The purpose of the magazine is the purpose for all the papers for this semester. You are trying to inform your readers and persuade your readers about something that you feel is important and needs to be addressed. So you all chose issues that were of, larger public concern, and so you can all imagine an audience who needs to hear whatever it is that you have to say. Here's your chance for all of that to come together and create a real impact on somebody. So the purpose of your magazine is to use all 4 of your papers to come together and create one very large statement about whatever it is that you've been writing about. Now, as we said at the beginning of the semester in our introduction to the course video, the report introduces a concept and alerts readers that there is a problem. The position convinces readers to see the problem in a certain way. The proposal convinces readers of the best solution to the problem and details a plan of action for solving it. And the profile shows readers how the problem affects somebody or how people or organizations are trying to solve it. And then, with your editor's note, you will contextualize and introduce all of that and explain why the issue is so important for people to read about.
And why you chose to write and research about this issue throughout the semester. That will help Nicole and I, as we are grading your magazines, understand why you chose the subject that you chose, why you chose to write about it in a certain way, and what you've learned from the entire semester researching and writing about this issue, as well as the writing process as a whole. So this is your chance to convince us that you have been learning throughout the semester, you have applied it to what you've been writing, and that you'll carry on after this class with what you've learned.
Yeah, because the letter also tells us what you revised, why you revised it, how you revised it. So you give us a little bit of a heads up on what it is that you changed in your papers and what techniques you applied to your own writing during this revision process, so that you have to actually tell us what you've revised. So you better do those revisions.
And this is really important for you to do well on and explain yourself well because Nicole and I will read that first. That's the first thing in your magazine that we'll read, and that will provide context for us how to read the rest of your magazine. And it will help us understand why you chose to do certain things, use certain elements over others in your writing throughout the rest of the magazine. And so we'll have a better understanding of your writing, and it's your opportunity to argue why you felt that the way that you chose to write about the subject was the best way.
So, creating a magazine probably sounds a little bit scary, and it probably is if you've never done anything besides just a basic paper, plain text paper before. However, there are a lot of tools that you can use to create a magazine, and you don't have to do it from scratch. There are a lot of templates that Microsoft Word uses. You can look online for templates, and your actual Word program probably has quite a few too. You can look for templates on things like newsletters, pamphlets, or brochures, and that will give you a really good basic format to work with. It might have a border around the page, and it might have, like a tiny little design in the corner, and it might already be formatted into columns that you can use, and all you need to do is place your text from your papers in there. And it doesn't have to be difficult to use those things. Since you've already learned how to incorporate visuals into your papers, it really won't be difficult for you to put them into a magazine format, especially when you don't have to do all of the hard formatting by yourself. So please don't freak out about the concept of putting together a magazine, because there are a lot of easy templates out there that you can just kind of cut and paste your stuff into and then adjust as necessary. And so there's nothing to freak out about. However, to make everything fit into one magazine, you probably have written over 25 to 30 pages of writing at this point in the semester. That's a lot, and it's all double-spaced. So to make everything fit, we ask you to condense that down to a single-spaced or a 1.5 spaced. And you need to use a normal font that's not any fatter than like Times New Roman, and so that will help it all fit in there. And you don't want your magazine to be, a 30-page magazine. You want it to be more like a 12 to 13 to 15-page magazine. So to make everything fit from your papers, you're going to need to edit your papers heavily. You will need to get rid of unnecessary content, duplicate content. Anything you've repeated in between papers in the semester, you will need to get rid of. Lengthy explanations that you've already covered in previous papers, because remember, these will be read as a collective whole. So you don't need to repeat yourself, and you don't need to explain something you've already explained. And that will help you cut down on your word count a little bit, and that will help, make your magazine a little bit easier to flip through like a magazine should. You'll be using columns, obviously, in your magazine, because that's what real magazines use, and that will help you fit more text into the page. Break up your text, though, with some graphics. The pictures that you already have incorporated into your papers, or the graphs, charts, etc., whatever it is that you have that you've already used in your papers, use that to break up the text a little bit and make it easy on the eye to read. And you can also add a lot of other interesting features that we'll talk about in just a second that will add to your magazine and also add to your grade, because you can get extra credit for it.
Okay, so the extra credit part of the magazine assignment, or the magazine project. Nicole and I have titled these optional editions. The optional editions, here are a few of them, that you can include in your magazine are a review. So you'll go back and review perhaps a documentary on your issue, a television program on your issue, maybe a book or a lengthy article on your issue, and you'll review it much like you see reviews of books or movies, documentaries in magazines or in newspapers or even on the television. And so the magazine assignment description goes into more detail of what a review would require. There's also a follow-up edition that you can include in the magazine, where you can follow up on particular events, people, political discussions, any of those kinds of things that have gone on since you've written a certain paper, and or that have come to a head or anything like that while you're in the revision process that you weren't able to cover because they've happened recently.
Like if you discussed a bill in one of your papers that's now made more progress through Congress, and you want to report on, give a follow-up report on what's happened with it since then, that would be an appropriate thing to do for the follow-up feature.
There's also the optional edition of using political cartoons. So I believe in the assignment description it says that you come up with 5 political cartoons.
I think it's 3.
3 to 5. It's somewhere around there.
It's in the description, though.
Where you explain what the rhetorical effect of the political cartoon is, and show how it uses exaggeration, irony, labeling, symbolism, all of those kinds of things that go into political cartoons to create meaning for the reader. Another edition is fallacious quotes, where you pull, through your research, I'm sure that you've come across some fallacies in your the people that you've contemplated using as sources and hopefully didn't use as sources. Anyway, in the fallacious quotes optional edition, you'll explain why the quote is fallacious, what particular fallacy it's using, and explain in detail why it's that fallacy that you